TJ, your host, and I've got two guests with me. This is Little Bandit over here and Little Jade over here. They just turned 17 years old. Inside the abuser's mind. This is the second episode, the next part from, once again, Lundy Bancroft's book, Why Does He Do That? Inside the minds of angry and controlling men, women, or other. The next section is 4 critical characteristics of an abusive argument. Bancroft tells us that you may find that each disagreement with your partner is unique and could start in any number of millions of ways, yet it can only arrive at 4 or 5 different endings. And guess what? Every single one of these endings is bad. Your gnawing sensation of futility is actually coming from the abusive person's thinking about verbal conflict. The abusive person's outlook makes it impossible for an argument to proceed towards anything other than the fulfillment of its wishes, or toward nowhere at all. 4 features stand out. Number 1. The abusive person sees an argument as some kind of a war. The abusive person's goal in a verbal conflict is not to negotiate different desires or to understand each person's intentions, perspectives, or experiences, or to think of mutually beneficial solutions. No, all it wants is to win. Winning is measured by who talks the most, who makes the most devastating or humorous insults, none of which of course is funny to the partner, and who controls the final decision that comes from this debate. He or she will not settle for anything other than winning victory. If it feels it's lost the argument, it may respond by making a tactical retreat and gathering its forces to strike again later. Under this layer, there's an even deeper stratum in many abusive people where we unearth the attitude that the whole relationship is a war. To this mindset, relationships are dichotomous. You're either on one side or the other, the dominator or the submitter, the champ or the chump, the cool man or the loser. It can imagine it no other way. Number 2, the partner is always wrong in the abusive person's eyes. It is frustrating and ultimately pointless to argue with somebody who is certain beyond the shadow of a doubt that its perspective is right and complete and that yours is wrong and retarded. Where can the conversation possibly go? Nowhere. The question isn't whether it agrees forcefully or not. Many non-abusive people express their opinions with tremendous conviction and emotion, yet still allow themselves to be influenced by the other person's point of view. On the other hand, it isn't hard to tell when someone is refusing to consider in good faith your ideas and instead just reaching for whatever stick it thinks will deal the heaviest blow to your side. When your partner says to you disparagingly,
"Oh, the real reason why you complain about how I argue is that you can't deal with the fact that I have strong opinions,"
it's diverting attention from the tactics it uses. It's also reversing reality, which is that it can accept your differences of opinions and doesn't want to let his or her thinking be influenced by yours. And then, of course, the part he says next is kind of funny. He says in parentheses, on the rare occasions when it does adopt your ideas, it may claim them as if they were his or her own, which I've had that happen before, which is sick, where I'll make a suggestion. I'll say, hey, why don't we do this? And the other person, of course, will say, we're not doing that because blah, blah, blah. Well, then, like a week or 2 or 3 later, all of a sudden, the creature says, hey, you know what? We should do this. And I think, that's what I suggested a few weeks ago, but that's the way these creatures work. Number 3, it has an array of control tactics in conflicts. Bancroft's clients have so many ways to bully their way through arguments that he couldn't possibly name them all. But he's got a list of the most common tactics that they use, which I will cover. Sarcasm, ridiculing, distorting what you've said, distorting what happened in a previous interaction, gaslighting, sulking, accusing you of doing what it does, which is projection, or accusing you of thinking the same way it thinks, using a tone of absolute certainty and final authority, which is defining reality, interrupting, not listening and refusing to respond, laughing out loud at your opinion or at your perspective, turning your grievances around to use against you, changing the subject to its grievances, criticism that's harsh, undeserved, or frequent, provoking or trying to provoke guilt, playing a victim, smirking, rolling eyes, contemptuous facial expressions, yelling out and shouting, using profanity, calling you names, using insults and put-downs, walking out, towering over you, walking towards you in an intimidating way, blocking the doorway from your exit, other forms of physical intimidation such as getting too close when it's angry, threatening to leave, and threatening to hurt you. Conversational control tactics are aggravating no matter who uses them, but they're especially coercive and upsetting when used by an abusive creature because of the surrounding context of emotional or physical intimidation. Bancroft says he's rarely met an abusive person who didn't use a wide array of the above tactics in conflicts. If you consider an argument with this partner to be a war, why not use every weapon you can think of? The underlying mindset makes the behaviors almost inevitable. The abusive person wants particularly to discredit your perspective, especially your grievances. It may tell you, for example, that the real reason why you're complaining about the way this person treats you is you don't want it to feel good about itself. You can't handle if it has an opinion that's different from yours, or if it's angry, or if it's right. You are just too sensitive. You read way too much into things, or you take things the wrong way. You were abused as a child by a former partner, so you think everything is abuse. Heard that one before. These are all strategies that it uses to avoid having to think seriously about your issues, your grievances, because then it might be obliged to change its behaviors or attitudes, and it ain't having any of that. The abusive person's goal in a heated argument is, in essence, to get you to stop thinking for yourself or to be quiet, because to it, your opinions and complaints are simply obstacles to the imposition of its will, as well as an affront to its sense of entitlement. If you watch closely, you'll begin to notice how many of its controlling behaviors are aimed ultimately at discrediting and silencing you. Number 4, it makes sure to get its way by one means or another. The bottom line with an argument with an abusive person is that it wants what he wants or she wants today, tomorrow, and always. And it feels like it's entitled to get it.
Hey, I can't help it that I don't have a soul. Damn you for having one. How dare you have creativity? I don't like that. Besides, you'll never ever find anyone as wonderful as I am.
Hello, darling. I am the Narcopath. I know that when we were together, I always caught you looking at those young, beautiful bimbos who had the pretty faces, and I always felt second fiddle to them. You would always tell me I was the most beautiful one, but I knew that you really liked them better, so I've taken steps to give you a birthday surprise. I have changed my appearance for you. I'm gonna unveil it for you now. And once you see my new look, post-plastic surgery, you will be with me forever. Hi, sweetie. Do you want to make love? You always told me I was the prettiest. Come on now.
had just met you and didn't know you that well. I used your friend and told her that I had an idea that we could have a surprise party for you. And I asked her if she would steal your address book. She had access. She was your best friend. I wanted every name in there so I could get to every single one of them.
Speaking of loose lips, no one's lips are looser than mine, if you know what I mean. But that's beside the point. I've got the loosest lips you'll ever lick.